Well, first of all, my name is Dave Kennedy. Thank you so much for allowing me to share my story. I feel very compassionate about this and about all the patients that go through Merkel cell carcinoma. Well, this was about June 2018. And I had a bump on the side of my face right by my ear. And it started to grow, really started to grow quite a bit in May. I was doing a lot of traveling at the time. And so I made an appointment at the dermatologist. It was about 2.5 or 3 weeks later that I received a phone call. I'm sitting here at work like I am right now, and got the phone call. And she said that she had some news that I had Merkel cell carcinoma and it was a rare and aggressive cancer. And I jumped on the internet and looked it up, and the only word I saw was fatal. And I immediately shut down my browser, didn't look at the internet again, called my wife, Fiona, and had the discussion. The team did the research, Fiona and her team, and they found that Dr. Neem had published some papers on Merkel cell carcinoma, and he was the leading doctor in this particular field. And we knew that that was right away, the Seattle Cancer Care Alliance was the place to go. Our girls, our daughters, Grace and Olivia, were 13 and 10 at the time. So we told them that we were going on vacation, and one of Fiona's friends came up and stayed with the girls. Through the radiation period, Dr. Liu was my doctor at Queens Hospital. He did the radiation. So then it looked like I had bad sunburn sometimes. The staff would go, "Oh, you've been out in the sun too long." And I lost hair all the way around. It's grown back some, but they thought I had a very cool haircut. So I was able to pull it off. And guess what? The radiation ended the day before Fiona and I flew out to go on our Mediterranean cruise. So we got to go on the cruise. We flew back to Seattle in October after the cruise. And now it was the time to do the scans, find out where we were in the process. And we had the scans, and we had a positive result. No tumors were showing up. But Coley said to me, there's a spot that we're not sure of that they read. So once you come back in another 2 months, and we'll take a look at your scan in 2 months. Went to SSCA, got the scan. And when I went back in to meet with Coley, she's like, I could read her face. Something wasn't right. And the cancer had metastasized the tumor to my liver. I remember Dr. Neem, I was in the waiting room, and he patted me on the shoulder, and he felt like, dang, I'm sorry about that. But he also encouraged that we have other avenues to treat this. And at that time, he always kept it like, okay, well, we're going to do the next thing. And then he says, we're going to move you over to the oncologist, Dr. Kelly Paulson. My insurance, HMSA, which is part of, I think, Blue Cross Blue Shield group here in Hawaii. She called them up to get me a Keytruda treatment, and they denied it. If you know Kelly, though, she's a fighter. She's a real fighter. This was December 23rd. She told me they denied it. On Christmas Eve, she literally fought through the end of the night with the heads of HMSA. There's a 3-hour time difference. And she convinced them to approve it, and she did. So what followed was flew back to Seattle, started my Keytruda infusions. Fiona and I went back 3 weeks after that to get the infusion, but also at that time to get a scan to see where things stood. And we were in the waiting room, and obviously extremely nervous. And she came in the door with the biggest smile that Dr. Kelly Paulson can have. And she says, "It's gone." And we just kind of hugged and started crying and everything like that. So that was a miracle. That was a day I'm like, yes. We, of course, called Dr. Neem and Coley right then, and they're yelling and screaming and celebrating, etc., because it worked. Here I am, 2.5 years later. Now I get the infusions every 6 weeks. I get the scans every 4 months instead of 3 months, and it's remained gone. And it's Fiona and I bless every single day. We really do. Absolutely, the largest obstacle is when that tumor showed up on the liver. I mean, that was just a moment. That was a very tough moment. And as I said, my advice is just to believe in the journey. And I read a quote recently: life is never about what we achieve, it's about what we overcome. I want to give all my love and aloha to all the Merkel cell patients out there. I want to thank all the team members that helped me. And like I said, I've gotten to this point and it's the best time of my life. And I appreciate all of you. God bless. And aloha.
Okay, I'm Ilmar Reinvald, and I was diagnosed with Merkel cell carcinoma almost exactly 4 years ago in August of 2017. And I was then connected with Dr. Neum, who connected me with Dr. Nelligan on University of Washington Medical Center, who did the surgery on my cheek. After that, I think we waited a couple of weeks for the wound to heal a little bit, and then there was one shot of radiation after that. And then shortly afterwards, I had a CT scan, and it showed that the carcinoma had spread into my into some lymph nodes in my neck. And so back to Dr. Nelligan, and he did surgery in August of 2018, and he took out 7 lymph nodes in my neck, and 4 of them were cancerous. Before the operation, I told Dr. Nelligan in both operations, now please, Dr. Nelligan, sew me up with fishing line so that I have a nice jagged scar so that I can say that I've been in a bar fight again. And of course, he didn't do that. And so I told him I was upset with him, and we all laughed, and it was just kind of lightened up the whole situation. But anyway, one scar is right here. You can't see it. The other scar comes all the way down here and down here, and you can't see it. So that's the artistic work of Dr. Nelligan. And then after that, after I healed up, Dr. Neum recommended that I do proton radiation, which I did. It was pretty focused right on the area where the first surgery was. And then, shortly after that, the CT scans showed that it had already spread to my neck, to the lymph nodes, and then also to a spot right near my ear. I've had periodic CT scans starting with about 3 months apart, and I think the latter ones have been about 6 or 7 months apart, and I've been clean since then. So the proton therapy radiation has been extremely successful, and I only have gratitude for the medical team and Dr. Neum, who's been taking such great care of me. The support was very important. My family and friends came to visit me in the hospital, and they came to visit me when I was getting the proton therapy treatment, and those were just very encouraging and very, very helpful. Thank you very much for listening to my story, and I hope it does serve some people well.
Hi, I'm Katia, and I want to introduce you my mom, Nelida Chavez, and my dad, Guillermo Lock. My mother was a very dedicated nurse, and with very ambitious to really help the Peruvian nursing school, and she was the dean of the nursing school. She developed Merkel in 2013. Through research and a lot of research, we were able to find Dr. Neum and his team. and they advise us to do the opposite, not to do chemo. And that extended her life for a long time. Her prognosis was 3 months because she had, at that point, Merkel carcinoma stage 3B. And she lived until maybe 5 years more. And at no point she had pain, she had quality of life. She worked until 1 week prior to her death. And she peacefully transitioned. But we are so grateful to Dr. Niam and to his team because they help us throughout the journey.
Hi, I'm Ericka Lock. I'm Katya's sister and the daughter of Nelida Lock. When my mother was diagnosed, I flew right away to Peru to help her. And as I was there and we found out that what she had was Merkel carcinoma, my sister went into a research spree and she found a connection in Dr. Niam's lab. Once she told me that the lab was in Seattle, I was extremely happy that they were so close to where I live. And I was able to continue the communication with Dr. Niam's lab. We felt very relieved to be able to work with a team that knew everything about this cancer, and we were able to relay their guidance to the team in Peru. So once we reached out to Dr. Niam's lab, we learned from him and his team that her cancer was caused possibly by a virus, and that the best treatment for her was not chemotherapy, but to just keep monitoring her blood levels in terms of antibodies, and also to, whenever it showed up, to treat it either with chemotherapy or an operation, which that happened. It showed up in several parts of her body. However, then after 2.5 years, she was able to, nothing showed up in her body, and she was able to have a good quality of life. And eventually it actually spread further in her body. And at that point, we brought her to the United States and had a meeting with Dr. Niam and his team. And it was very, in a way, a good timing, because by this time, Dr. Niam's lab have tested and was doing research with pembrolizumab, with immune therapy solutions. And my mother was able to benefit from that test or from that research. So we were able to send her back to Peru, figure out a way to give her pembrolizumab, which we were able to. And she continued to have a good life. And again, she hardly had any pain, any sufferings. And eventually, well, it spread in her body, but with the support and the orientation that we received from Dr. Niam and his lab, my mother was able to have 5.5 years of quality life. And we're just very thankful for that, because I don't think we could have done it without their help.
Doctor Niam, le agradezco, le expreso mis agradecimientos, mi reconocimiento, mi gratitud por su dedicación profesional en el tratamiento a mi esposa, Nélida. Gracias a usted, a su tenacidad, a su esfuerzo, a su deseo de obtener más información sobre esta enfermedad, está trabajando exitosamente. Toda mi familia, estamos muy agradecidos de usted, que desde lejos ha tratado a mi esposa. Sus desvelos, su preocupación de usted se podía observar en los análisis de sangre que cada mes o cada cierto tiempo teníamos que enviarle la sangre desde el Perú, y usted, con gran cariño, con su profesionalismo de médico humano, grandioso, ha tratado de curar, de sanar a mi esposa. Pero ella me ha acompañado, gracias a usted, 5 años y unos meses más, y nunca ha tenido ningún dolor, nada. Siempre ha estado sana, caminando bien. Gracias a usted, doctor. Le deseo éxitos en su investigación sobre estas células Merkel para que la humanidad pueda sentirse mejor con lo que usted va a conseguir. Estoy seguro que usted va a lograr muchos éxitos en su investigación. Le deseo felicidades, doctor. Nuevamente, muy agradecido. Que Dios lo bendiga.